Hey guys, what's up? Plastic Guy here, coming back with another figure review, and today we're taking a look at version 2 of Amazing Yamaguchi's Revoltech Spider-Man, and there is a lot of hype surrounding this figure right here. I'm of course a massive Spidey fan. I'm a big fan of the first version of Amazing Yamaguchi's Revoltech Spidey. We did take a closer look at that figure here on the channel, but a lot of folk are saying that this figure is the best Spider-Man figure of all time, so we will compare him to some of the other big contenders in that category. But I really just can't wait to take a closer look at this thing on the channel because he looks spectacular. So let's not wait any longer, let's just jump right into the video. So first up, let's take a closer look at the packaging that the figure comes in. This is very similar to the packaging that we saw with version 2 of Revoltech Deadpool. Very minimalist, but I think it does kind of advertise a more premium figure. I'm interested as to why they went with this logo. Anytime I've seen this logo here, it's kind of for the more kid-like toys, which I guess that's kind of cool. You know, we get this logo that I associate anyway with the more cheaper kind of kid toys, but with this very collector friendly, more expensive figure. So yeah, interested as to why they went with that logo. I suppose it is just a classic comic Spidey logo. Then we get Spider-Man version 2 and Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi. Picture of the figure, nicely spot varnished on there. Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi, Marvel. You've got that logo again, similar to the top of the packaging. Bottom of the package, we then get the side here. Couple images of the figure on this side as well, and then the back of the packaging with a bunch of poses that the figure can get into and all the accessories that are included as well. So that is the box. Let's open it up and see what we get inside. So we do get a flight stand with this figure, but as I've said before, not really in need of any flight stands at the moment, so I'll keep that in the package. The figure is nicely covered in this sort of material here, and we get interchangeable eyes, so I'll show them off just in the package as they are, which is really cool. Nice kind of angry, closer together eyes. These ones are, I don't know what expression you would describe these as, but I've seen them ported in. They look nice as well, and then kind of more shocked, big, wider eyes. So that will be really fun to play around with. I'll definitely be porting them in and out, and I'll post some pictures on Instagram with them. We then get this plethora of hands, and I really like how they've done this. Keeps them all nicely together. They just port on and off this bit of plastic in the middle holding them together. So we get two, I think the top ones are more wall crawling hands. The fisted hands are what are ported in when you open the figure up. I have posed this guy around a wee bit, so I've got the webbed whipping hands in at the moment. Kind of more relaxed, loose hands. More like more wall crawling hands. These are wider, open, more sprawled out. And then I would also say these are kind of wall crawling hands, or I use these ones for like a more perched pose. So yeah, I do like the range of hands that we get here. They're all really nicely coloured, all really nicely sculpted. I like how they're kept together on the plastic here. Nothing to complain about at all. I don't think we're missing any hands. Whipping hands, fisted hands, wall crawling hands, loads of wall crawling hands. So yeah, that's good. And then we get two kind of longer webs that you can hold on to. These have a green shine to them that does match the sort of logo of Spider-Man here. I can't remember what this suit's called. Is it Mark IV? I have read some of the comics that this suit's featured in. I wasn't a fan. I do prefer a more classic Spidey, and that run of Spidey comics seemed to be very much like the MCU Spider-Man in sense of he is replicating Iron Man a wee bit. I hate to say it, but I mean, from what I read in that comic line, he was just Tony Stark Jr. He was a big tech wizard working for himself. He had his own company as far as I remember. He was creating all his own gadgets, and it was very gadget tech heavy. And as I said, I'm a bigger fan of the more classic kind of Spidey. So yeah, it wasn't for me, but I do like the costume overall, and of course we'll take a closer look at that in a second. We've got the web wings, which is always such a nice touch. In fact, let's see if I can port them in just now. So it just ports onto the back of the figure. We can see the porthole later on, but yeah, you can just kind of move the arm around and make it kind of sit on there so it looks nice and fluid. But these are great, I really like it. Nice touch to Spider-Man. We don't see the web wings as often. We of course got it in the Amazing Friends Spider-Man Marvel Legends figure, and yeah, it's always cool to see. And then we get these two webbed weapon accessories up at the top of the packaging here, and they port onto the webbed weapon hand as so. And yeah, like, I think it's cool that we get these. I would have liked maybe a couple more webbed weapon accessories, just more kind of classic straight out webs. Of course, you could port the longer web in as well. It's got like a wee port there, but I don't know, yeah, I mean, I suppose getting this and that is fine. I was just maybe expecting a shorter one, and this one here is just gnarly. I mean, that is unique for a web blast, which I like, but it is a bit much, right? I don't think I'll use it as much, but I have seen some pictures on Instagram, folk using these, and it does look cool, so happy to get them, but interesting. I mean, the version 1 Revoltech Spidey came with some great web accessories. I don't think this is on the same level, but still very good. And then that leaves us with the figure itself, and this thing is incredible, man. I know everyone's saying it, but I think in this case, definitely believe the hype. He looks unreal. I mean, the colours on this thing are just splendid. Splendid? Did I really just say that? This figure is making me say words like splendid, man. Honestly, it is so good. The movement is insane. It looks the part. I definitely think it must be in the top 5 at least Spider-Man figures for me. We'll get to that later on. Let's just take a closer look at this guy at the moment. Head sculpt's great. I mean, I really like the head sculpt on this thing. Great shape, the eyes are fantastic, nothing to complain about at all. You've got the sculpted webbing in there, and I don't know if it's exactly painted, but you've got the darker shade of red in the web lines here, so it does pop, and I love the sheen all over this figure as well. Comparing the head sculpt to version 1 Spidey, you can see it. I think it is a lot better in shape, a lot more rounded, and the eyes just come off a lot better as well. We'll compare these two side by side a wee bit more later on. But yeah, overall head sculpt, can't complain at all. Great range of movement as well, you know, looking right up. And that's what you need for a Spider-Man. He's of course going to look right down as well. The head moves around by itself, and you've also got that neck movement going on as well. Going into the chest area, I think that is probably the only downside for me for this figure. It's got some weird butterfly joints, so the arms move backwards and forwards, but you've got these chest plates at the side to, you know, really get the arms down, and then and it covers the logo. I don't know how much that's needed. Like, surely there was a better way to kind of incorporate these butterfly style joints without covering the logo, you know. It's not a big deal, because when you're posing them around and you've got the arms in front, the logo is going to be covered a bit anyway, but definitely worth noting. I've not seen anything like this before, where the articulation for the arms comes right over onto the chest. I feel like this could have just been cut a wee bit shorter, you know. Yeah, just worth mentioning. It doesn't ruin the figure at all for me, not even close, but definitely something I thought was odd that was worth mentioning, you know. Moving this forward, this arm seems to be a wee bit less so, but yeah, covers the logo up, and that is a wee bit weird, but still nothing to worry about at all. Of course, got the sculpted web lines, the lovely shiny red paint. I think the logo is great. I think it's the Mark IV suit, as I said earlier, and they've nailed it, man. Like, this suit in the game, this suit in the comics always came across very shiny, very metallic. And this figure, I think this figure is just such a great iteration of that costume that it might be the best we've ever seen this costume, you know. The blue is insane, like the texturing going on at the side of the abs here with just the shine. Oh, It looks so damn sick, man. This is a wee bit more of a muscly Spider-Man. I think I've said before in the channel that I do prefer a more kind of slim, less muscular Spidey, but this is fine. I think they've got a perfect match here. He is slimmer, but he's still ripped, and you know, you can see it right through the costume, and it pops so much. The sculpt on top of the paint here, it is top tier, man. And it doesn't slack. This texture goes around all of the figure. We can see the back logo here, which is also sort of affected by that articulation, but once again, not too much of a problem. You can see the plates are a lot more prominent on the back than they are on the front, but you know, it's still fine. It still looks fluid. It still all comes together. It doesn't look janky. I keep saying janky, especially when I was talking about version 2 Deadpool, and I think that is the most perfect word to describe version 1 Spider-Man. It looks clunky. It looks janky. It does not look well put together. You can't say the same about version 2. This thing looks absolutely solid. The arms look great as well. You've still got those big muscles going on. Still looks very fluid. Still got all that paint there. Of course, I have swapped the hands back to the fisted hands. I had the weapon hands on before. Hands are super easy to pour on and off, which version 2 Deadpool was really giving me a hard time putting the hands off and on. This seems a lot more fluid and a lot better. And going back to version 2 Deadpool, I was very frustrated with that figure in general. A lot of problems with the movement on it, all the things kind of popping off. I was worried opening this thing up. I had literally just finished kind of playing around and reviewing version 2 Deadpool, and this thing arrived. And I have to say, I wasn't looking forward to it after the Deadpool, man. And I was pretty nervous on getting this thing out of the packaging, but this has restored my faith in Revoltech because the movement is there. Don't get me wrong, I have had times moving this leg around where it has popped off, but I'm not surprised with that because I was, you know, pushing it right up the way. Whereas on the Deadpool, as soon as I went like that, boom, the leg was off. So yeah, the movement on this thing is great, very fluid, it moves so well, and of course, as I've said, it looks incredible as well. I love the legs, very similar to version 2 Deadpool, but I think the sculpt's great. You can see there's sort of all sorts of things going on in the lower leg here. Yeah, this thing is maybe 10 out of 10, honestly. This thing is great. Let's put them up next to some other Spider-Man figures that I've got in the collection. So first up, we've got our version 2 Revoltech Spidey next to the Amazing Yamaguchi version 1 Revoltech Spidey, and these two side by side is crazy, man. You wouldn't even know that these came from the same company. This thing could get into some incredible poses, but he was just ugly, bro. Like, come on, he never looked good in those poses. And Revoltech obviously heard all the feedback. Everyone's saying the same thing about how janky this thing looked, and they've gave us the most perfect upgrade. And then we've got the Revoltech version 2 Spidey next to the Revoltech version 2 Deadpool, and he's looking a bit bare. He doesn't have any of the ported on accessories at the moment, but you can see that both of these guys look incredible. The Revoltech version 2 is just crush it on the sculpt side of things. As I said in my video reviewing this guy, I had a lot of problems with him, and I'm happy to say that I have none of the same problems with the new version 2 Spidey. And then next up, we've got the Sentinel Peter B. Parker. He's got the dad bod on at the moment. I feel like maybe the ab would be more suitable to compare to this shredded new Spidey. But I feel like there are three main Spider-Man figures that constantly get the title of the best Spider-Man figure. Of course, one being the new version 2 Revoltech Spidey, another being the Sentinel Peter B. Parker, and then what we'll look at next, my personal favourite, the Mayfix Spider-Man. Man, it's hard to compare, it really is. I think the Sentinel has some great accessories, but putting this just figure by figure, comparing both of these guys side by side, I think I would have to go for the new Revoltech Spider-Man. And I feel like Revoltech Spider-Man has held the title for the best Spider-Man figure the longest. Of course, Sentinel and the new Revoltech being a lot newer figures, and Revoltech's been out for quite a few years now. I think that's fair enough. I don't know, man. I think the Sentinel and the Revoltech definitely have a better range of movement than the Revoltechs, but I feel like the Revoltechs, the look of it, man, it's unmatched. It is the best looking comic Spider-Man figure money can buy. You know, these do get compared to a lot of other figures, especially Marvel Legends, which we will look at next, but it's kind of uncomparable. You know, you of course get Amazing Spider-Man Marvel Legends figures, but yeah, these things are on another level, man, and it's not fair to compare. I think these are still my favourite comic Spider-Man figures. They still have that top spot, but Revoltech definitely isn't far behind, and it is just the look of these figures that are unbeatable. And so next up, we've got our version 2 Revoltech next to the Renew Your Vows Marvel Legends Spider-Man. As I said earlier, the Revoltech has got this slim but shredded look to him. He's still got a bit of bulk despite being pretty skinny. So I wanted to put him next to one of the bigger, bulkier Marvel Legends figures, and the Renew Your Vows figure is perfect. These two side by side, I mean, the Revoltech just looks like an advanced Super Saiyan mode of the Renew Your Vows. Both are great figures. I mean, I always think it is a bit unfair comparing these import figures to Marvel Legends, but it was a lot more easy to make that argument in the past when you're spending £20 on a figure. Now we're getting a lot of 2-packs, a lot of 3-packs, and the prices are constantly going up. Don't get me wrong, the quality is going up as well. This Renew Your Vows figure is fantastic, and it does have a great range of movement, great sculpt, great look to it. Of course, I'm going to expect the Revoltech to look better and have a better range of movement as it is more expensive, but it's not too far away. There's not much of a gap between these two price points. £55, yeah, albeit we get a whole other figure with a bunch of accessories. We got a bunch of accessories with Spider-Man, but you're talking 55 and 75. That's £20 difference, and I don't know, man. If you were thinking about getting the Renew Your Vows, I would maybe just say save a couple more pennies and just pick up the Revoltech, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's hard. I feel like I don't ever really want to compare Marvel Legends to imports because, one, they will just get trumped. I mean, who's saying that this is better than that? No one. But is it a fair comparison? Nowadays, it's a lot more fair to compare these two than it was a couple years ago. Next up, we've got another fantastic Marvel Legends release. It's the Amazing Friends 3-pack Spider-Man. I chose to compare these two over the AF15 because the colours are of course more similar between these two. I love this figure, it is great. I think this is the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man body mold, but once again, the price for this thing is pretty hefty, and the gap between these two price points is even closer than the Revoltech and the Renew Your Vows. So if you're about to splash out for this 3-pack, I don't know, I'd maybe consider the Revoltech. And then next we've got a couple of Toy Biz Spider-Man figures, and I wanted to compare these because I think similar to Revoltech, they go for a really stylised look for their figures. So did Toy Biz, and the reason I picked these two, we've got these incredible colours on the Web Splasher Spider-Man. When I did the video on this figure, I was just constantly raving about how much I love the colours in this thing. And I think the Revoltech here is the closest we're getting to this blue since this figure came out. Of course, SH Figure Arts have announced the final swing Spider-Man costume from No Way Home, and that was an instant pre-order. I would check it out, guys, because it's an SH Figure Arts. I think it was retailing for 55, which is an insane price mark for an SH Figure Arts. I don't know why it's so cheap, maybe just lack of accessories, but it looks incredible and the paint looks even better than this blue here. I mean, it's very similar, but yeah, I cannot wait to compare these two. As I was saying, Revoltech is probably the closest we get to this shiny, bold, bright blue since this one here. And then talking about the kind of shredded, bulkier look to the Revoltech, we've got the Sinister Six Spider-Man as well, which is perhaps the biggest and bulkiest Spider-Man figure about. And so there we have it for our version 2 Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Spider-Man. And as I said at the start, believe the hype for this thing, man, because it is so worth it. I mean, it looks just absolutely incredible. The movement's so fluid, you can get this guy into some insane poses, and that's what I'm going to be doing the rest of the day, posing this thing around, and I'll be posting a lot of pictures up on my Instagram. I'll leave the link in the description below, so feel free to check that out. If I was to complain, yeah, the only thing would really be the chest area where the articulation is coming up over the logo. But that's if I was to complain. I don't actually think it is a big deal, but I can see, at first I was a bit put off by it, but yeah, not a big deal at all. And maybe some different web accessories, but yeah, those are so minor in the grand scheme of things. This is completely worth it. I'd highly recommend, and I'd love to know what you guys think of this figure down in the comment section below. So let me know down below. While you're down there, guys, if you could do me a massive favour and hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, then please hit that subscribe button. As I said, I'll leave the link to my Instagram in the description below, and feel free to hop on over to the channel page as well. There are plenty of other figure reviews, a lot of Spider-Man content over there, and it'd mean a lot if you could check that out. And of course, it means so much that you've watched this video right here, so thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch yous on the flip-flop later. Cheers.